I watched the liquid crystal display on my father's desk. It showed the company's analytics, the digital heartbeat of the empire I built from nothing. Beside me, my brother Marcus was already adjusting the height of the CEO's chair. He looked like a child playing dress-up in a dead man's suit. He hadn't even been in the office for an hour, and he was already acting like he owned the air we breathed. My father didn't look at me. He kept his eyes fixed on the window, watching the city traffic below. He slid a single, heavy folder across the mahogany. "You're the engine, David," he whispered. His voice was devoid of the warmth I had grown up with. "But Marcus is the face. He's the legacy. He has the degree that looks good on the letterhead. You understand, don't you?" The air in the room tasted like stale cigar smoke and expensive scotch. It tasted like a betrayal I should have seen coming years ago. I looked at the notice of termination inside the folder. I didn't cry. I didn't yell. I just looked at my watch. The silver second hand swept forward, relentless. The countdown had already begun. It all started as a thank you. My dad was an old-school traditionalist. He sold industrial hardware. We're talking paper ledgers, fax machines, and handshakes in dusty warehouses. When I got into university for computing science, he made me a deal that I thought was the foundation of our future. "I'll pay for your tuition," he told me over a greasy diner breakfast. "In exchange, you help me bring the business into the modern age." It seemed fair. Family helps family. That was the code we lived by. Or so I thought. While my friends were out at parties, I was in my dorm room, lit by the blue glare of 3 monitors. I didn't just build a website. I built a nervous system. I wrote a logistics tracker from scratch. I built a database that could predict stock shortages before the warehouse manager even knew they were low. Dad was thrilled. Suddenly, he had the one thing he never had before. Time. Time to find new clients. Time to grow. And the business didn't just grow. It tripled. As the years went by, my part-time help turned into a full-time obsession. "David, can you add a storefront?" "David, the inventory is lagging. Fix it." "David, we need to track employee hours across 4 states." I did it all. Between exams, between internships, I was the architect of his success, and I took pride in it. By the time I graduated, that website had evolved into a monster, a standalone software as a service that managed every single aspect of the company. It was beautiful, it was efficient, and it was mine. I was officially named CTO. I moved into a corner office. I thought I was being groomed for the throne. I thought my father saw me as his partner. Then came Marcus. Marcus graduated a year after me. He didn't have a degree in logic or code. He had a degree in business administration from a school that specialized in networking and golf. He walked into the office with a $3,000 watch and a smile that never reached his eyes. Dad started bringing him to the high-level meetings, the client dinners, the country club rounds. "He needs to learn the ropes, David," Dad would say whenever I asked why I wasn't invited. "You keep the code running. You're the genius in the basement. Marcus will handle the vision." I saw the red flags. I noticed Marcus started asking pointed questions about the software's administrative backend. He wanted the master passwords. He wanted to know how the server subscriptions were billed. He wanted to know exactly how much we were paying for the third-party API licenses. "Just for the audits," he'd say, leaning over my shoulder. I could smell his expensive cologne, a scent that started to make my stomach turn. Then came the board meeting. The one where Dad announced his retirement. I sat at the head of the table, heart hammering against my ribs, ready for my name to be called. Instead, Dad put his hand on Marcus's shoulder. "Marcus will be taking over as CEO," he announced. "David, you will remain as CTO under Marcus's direction, effective immediately." The room went silent. I could hear the hum of the server in the closet. My server, my life's work. "Dad," I said, my voice like cold glass. "I built the product. Marcus doesn't even know how to log in without my help." He doesn't know the difference between a database and a spreadsheet. My father looked at me with eyes that had turned to stone. I paid for your degree, David. The code belongs to the company. The company belongs to the heir. Don't be ungrateful. The betrayal didn't fully sink in until the transition dinner that Friday. We were at a high-end steakhouse. The smell of seared meat and red wine filled the air. Marcus was basking in the attention of a group of investors, bragging about his proprietary software. I designed the architecture to be lean, Marcus lied, swirling his Cabernet. I wanted a system that was foolproof, even for the warehouse guys. It's about vision, not just typing. Blah. I looked at my father. He nodded in approval, a proud smile on his face. He knew Marcus was lying. He knew I was the one who spent 18-hour days debugging that vision. And he didn't care. I felt a sudden, sharp clarity. It felt like a fever breaking. I realized that my father didn't value the 5 years of midnight coding. He didn't value the degree I earned while working 40 hours a week for him. He valued the business degree because it looked better on a brochure. He wanted a son who looked like a CIO, not one who worked like one. I excused myself to the restroom. I looked in the mirror and didn't recognize the man looking back. My face was pale. My eyes were tired. I could still smell the leather of Marcus's new CEO chair on my father's jacket. I pulled out my phone. I didn't call a lawyer, not yet. I swiped through my archived messages on LinkedIn. For the last 6 months, headhunters from our biggest competitor, Nexus Logistics, had been hounding me. Their CEO, Julian Vane, was a shark. He had even managed to get my personal cell number through an industry recruiter. He had called me 3 times. Every time I had told him no. I had told him I was loyal to my family business. I had even blocked his number to prove my devotion to my father. I unblocked it now. My thumb hovered over the contact. I didn't call my dad. I called the one person my father hated. The man who had seen my value while my own father was blinded by favoritism. The phone didn't even ring twice. "I'm ready to talk," I said. The next morning, the transition was finalized. I was handed that folder, the termination. Marcus wanted me out so he could have the glory without the awkwardness of his smarter brother in the next room. Dad allowed it because he thought the asset, the software, was already secured. They thought they bought my soul with a college tuition. They were wrong. They only bought the license to use it, for now. Here is what Marcus didn't understand about SaaS architecture. The code belonged to the company. Yes, I had signed that agreement, but the API integrations, the third-party logistics contracts, and the proprietary database structures, those were registered under my personal developer's license. I had paid for those licenses with my own money during my sophomore year because Dad was too cheap to set up a corporate account. He hadn't noticed. Marcus didn't even know what an API was. I started my new job at Nexus Logistics on Monday. I didn't steal their data. I didn't have to. I just built something better. With the massive budget of a global competitor, I built the Nexus system. It was my old software, but evolved, faster, smarter, and I designed it specifically to target my father's client list. Within 3 months, Nexus was offering 20% lower shipping rates because my new logistics algorithm was more efficient. Within 6 months, our old clients started calling. "Marcus, the site is down again," they'd scream. "Marcus, the inventory is showing we have stock we don't have. We're losing thousands." Because I wasn't there to fix the bugs, the system I built for my dad began to rot. Every time Marcus tried to update a feature to keep up with me, he broke 10 others. He hired a proper dev team, but they couldn't read my custom-built architecture. It was a labyrinth designed by a ghost. I watched from the 40th floor of the Nexus building. I watched as my father had to come out of retirement to try and save the company. I watched as he sold his vacation home to cover the server costs. I watched as Marcus was sued for gross negligence by 3 major retailers. The final blow came 8 months later. Nexus Logistics launched a hostile takeover of my father's company. Not for the brand, not for the warehouse, just for the client list. My father and Marcus were called into a meeting at Nexus headquarters to sign the liquidation papers. They walked into the boardroom looking haggard. My father's hair had turned completely white. Marcus looked like he hadn't slept since the day I left. The Nexus CEO gestured to the head of the table. "I'll let our senior vice president of global operations handle the signing," he said. I spun the chair around. The look on my father's face was worth every late night. The look on Marcus's face, pure, unadulterated terror. "You're a traitor," my father hissed, his hand shaking as he held the pen. "No, Dad," I said, sliding the papers toward him. "I'm the engine, and you just let the engine run you over." I didn't just take their company, I bought their debt. I now own the building Marcus worked in. I own the patents Marcus tried to claim. I even own the rights to the name of the company. I wiped the software I built for them. I deleted the database. I let the legacy turn to ash. Marcus is currently working as a mid-level manager at a car dealership. My father doesn't speak to me. And me. I'm just getting started. Family loyalty is a two-way street. When you treat your architect like a laborer, don't be surprised when the house falls down on your head. But I want to know what you think. Did I go too far by destroying my own father's life work? Or did he earn this the moment he handed my sweat and blood to my brother? Let me know in the comments, and if you've ever been passed over for a promotion you earned, tell me your story. I might have a job for you. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more stories of justice.